Welcome to Zion Hill Academy, a school where every girl dreams of a better future, but not a single one ever returns. Some say it's just a regular boarding school, but those who know the truth whisper a different name, the baby farm of Lagos. And the most shocking part, the school's owners didn't just trap strangers. They unknowingly threw their own daughters into the same nightmare they built for others. In the bustling heart of Lagos, past the glamour of Lekki Phase 1, stood a mansion so grand it looked like something out of a royal fantasy. People whispered about it like it was heaven on earth. Inside lived the iconic couple, Mr. Edward Akon and his beautiful wife, Mrs. Clara Akon, Lagos's very own celebrity philanthropists. They were rich, famous, and adored by the media. Edward was known for his chain of real estate investments, and Clara ran multiple NGOs and women empowerment projects. Together, they looked like the perfect couple, always holding hands, smiling at cameras, and worshiping passionately every Sunday. The people of Lagos admired them. Women wanted to be Clara, men wanted to be Edward, and their two daughters, Bella and Brenda, were treated like princesses. Their mansion was heavily guarded. Giant dogs, almost the size of baby cows, roamed the compound. The fence was so tall and intimidating, it felt like a fortress. But what no one knew was that behind those golden gates lay dark secrets so disturbing, even the devil would hesitate to knock. While their public image was spotless, inside their home, Edward and Clara barely spoke. Their marriage was just for the cameras. In truth, they were partners in something much darker, a wicked business that preyed on the innocent. They ran a special boarding school. To outsiders, Zion Hill Academy was a shining star in the world of education. A safe haven for less privileged girls to get a good education. But to those within its walls, it was a silent prison. A place where girls were trained not to read books, but to give birth. A place where childhood dreams were slaughtered quietly, away from the cameras. Clara was the brain behind the operation. Her charm was deadly. She picked her targets carefully, young, poor, and far from home. And her first victim, a bright, innocent 16-year-old orphan named Debbie. Debbie was just 16, but she carried the burdens of someone twice her age. She was from a small village in Enugu State, but after her parents died in a road accident, she moved to Lagos to live with her distant aunt. That arrangement didn't last. Her aunt couldn't afford to keep her, so she threw her into the streets. By the time Clara Akon met Debbie, she was already working long hours as a salesgirl at a small pepper rice joint in Aja. Every day, she served customers with a tired smile, hoping that somehow one day her life would turn around. Clara noticed her, how hardworking she was, how she never complained even when beaten by her boss or forced to sleep in the shop. Clara played her part well. She began offering Debbie free food and soft drinks, slipping her small change for transport, even though she walked everywhere. Slowly, Debbie began to trust her. After all, this was Mrs. Clara Akon, the angel on TV who helped orphans and single mothers. The woman whose face appeared on posters for girls' education and youth training programs. Why wouldn't she trust her? Then one day, Clara came with a big offer. Debbie, how would you like to go to a private school where you'll be safe, learn real skills, and have a better future? She asked with a warm smile. Debbie's heart raced. Her eyes watered. Nobody had ever offered her such a thing before. She didn't even think twice. She nodded immediately. That same evening, Clara took Debbie to a large house, the kind you only see in movies. There was a big TV, soft bed, air conditioner, hot meals, and even housemaids. For once in her life, Debbie felt seen, important, safe. But she didn't know. She had just entered a cage covered in gold. 3 weeks passed like a dream. Debbie ate well, dressed better than she ever had in her life, and even sent some pocket money to her little cousins back in the village. Claire treated her like a daughter. She called her my precious girl and told her stories about her own humble beginnings. Every night, Debbie thanked God for sending such a helper into her life. Then, one morning, Clara walked into her room with a big smile and said, "My dear, it's time to begin your new life at school." Debbie jumped up with excitement. She packed the new clothes and shoes Clara bought her, eager to start learning and chasing her dreams. A black SUV picked them up and drove for hours. They passed the outskirts of Lagos and finally pulled into a massive compound with tall barbed wire fences and a black gate bigger than anything Debbie had ever seen. The sign read, "Zion Hill Academy, a place for tomorrow's women." As soon as they entered, something changed. Clara's smile disappeared. The housemaids at the school didn't greet her like they used to. Instead, two stern-looking female staff took Debbie's bags from her and told her to follow them. She looked back at Clara, but the woman had already turned around and was walking back to the car without a word. The doors behind her slammed shut. From that moment on, Debbie was no longer a guest, she was property. There were no classrooms, no teachers, no books, just dim corridors, locked rooms, and scared-looking girls walking silently in uniforms too tight for comfort. The place smelled like antiseptic and sorrow. Everywhere she turned, there was a camera watching. That night, Debbie lay in a strange bed, clutching her pillow with trembling hands. Her nightmare had just begun. Debbie's first few days inside Zion Hill Academy felt like living in a haunted dream. There were no teachers, only aunties and nurses dressed in white, moving quietly through the halls like shadows. The girls weren't allowed outside. No phones, no visitors, no letters home, no breaks. The gates were always locked. The compound was always watched. Every girl had the same story. Each one had been brought in by Madame Clara or one of her workers. Some from the streets, some from orphanages, some even from remote villages across the country. The moment they arrived, their lives changed. They were never seen again. Debbie shared a room with 3 other girls. Anita, a soft-spoken girl from Delta State. Ruth, a tomboyish teenager who had once tried to run away and had the scars to prove it. And Zainab, who barely spoke at all. They told her in whispers what the school was really about. "It's not a school," Ruth said one night. "It's a factory. A baby-making factory." Debbie blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "They don't teach us ABCs here," Anita replied bitterly. "They train us to carry babies, that's all. They call it special service. They make money off the children." Zainab shivered and turned to the wall. Debbie didn't want to believe them, but as the days passed, the signs were everywhere. Girls walking with swollen bellies, midwives whispering about due dates. Some girls cried all night. Others had gone quiet like dolls. And every time a baby was born, it was taken away before the mother could even hold it, gone. Just like that. The next day, the girl would return to her room with red eyes and silence in her soul. Debbie lay awake every night, holding back tears, praying this was just a bad dream. But deep down, she knew. This was real, and there was no way out. While Debbie's cries were swallowed by the thick walls of Zion Hill Academy, Clara Ocon was already working on her next target. Her plan ran like a machine. Cold, calculated, and without emotion. Her next focus was a 17-year-old girl named Chiamaka, whom everyone called Chi. She lived in a small orphanage in Agege, run by a kind but struggling proprietor. The orphanage barely had enough food, and Chi often had to skip meals to make sure the younger children ate first. Clara had visited the orphanage many times before, dropping off cartons of noodles and clothes. Everyone there adored her, especially the proprietor, Mama Esther, who called her our helper from heaven. One hot afternoon, Clara returned with her signature smile and a fancy envelope in her designer handbag. "I have a scholarship opportunity," she told Mama Esther sweetly. One of our partner schools is taking in bright girls from underprivileged backgrounds. Chiamaka has caught my eye. I'd love to offer her a place." Mama Esther, overjoyed, clapped her hands. "Oh, God bless you, Ma. I always knew something good would come for that girl." Clara turned to Chi. "You'll be learning with the daughters of rich politicians and CEOs. This school will change your life." Chi looked down at her worn-out slippers and tattered uniform. She could hardly believe it. "Thank you, Ma," she whispered. The next day, she was picked up in a black SUV and driven far away from the orphanage. Clara gave her food, new clothes, and told her stories about success and independence. She painted the perfect future. But just like Debbie, she didn't realize that the dream was a trap. She arrived at Zion Hill Academy with excitement in her heart. It didn't take long for that excitement to turn into dread. And by the time she realized the truth, it was too late. By her second week in Zion Hill Academy, she was already feeling the heaviness settle over her chest. The excitement she carried in like a lantern had flickered out. What replaced it was confusion and fear. She quickly noticed there were no classes, no school bells, no teachers, only the nurses and aunties who gave strict instructions and watched the girls like hawks. She asked questions, but the answers she got were always vague. "Just relax, you'll understand with time. Don't worry, we're preparing you for greatness." Greatness? She didn't feel great. She felt trapped. She was given pills daily. No explanation. "Just take this." And when she asked about calling Mama Esther or writing to the orphanage, they told her, "There's no need. You're part of a better family now." In the room next to hers, girls wept quietly every night. Some screamed in their sleep. One morning, Chi overheard an argument between a nurse and one of the girls named Loveth, who had just delivered a baby. "You said I could hold her," Loveth cried, trembling. "Be grateful you're alive," the nurse snapped. "She's gone. Get yourself together." Chi froze. Her stomach turned. Later that night, while Chi sat quietly in the common room, Debbie approached her. The girl's eyes were dim, but something in her still sparked with courage. "You're new," Debbie whispered. "I was like you once." Chi nodded slowly. "Listen," Debbie said. "This is not a school. It's a trap. You need to stay alert. Stay smart. Don't let them break you." Chi's throat tightened. "Why are they doing this?" Debbie looked around cautiously, then leaned in. "Because people like Clara and Mr. Edward, they don't see us as girls. They see us as business." And just like that, Chi's nightmare had truly begun. At Zion Hill Academy, time didn't move like it did in the outside world. There were no calendars, no clocks. Just endless days that felt like shadows, stretching into forever. Inside the compound, there was a hidden wing, a section none of the girls were allowed to go unless they had been chosen. The building was painted white on the outside, but everyone called it the Red Wing, not because of the paint, but because of what happened inside. That was where the girls went when they were due. That was where the babies were born and never seen again. She hadn't been inside, but she'd heard the whispers. Girls came out of there different, quiet, withdrawn, broken. Some never spoke again. Others got sick and never recovered. And a few never came out at all. One morning, a new girl arrived. Her name was Halima, a fair-skinned, wide-eyed girl from the north. She had been kidnapped on her way home from church and brought to the academy in the middle of the night. Unlike the others, Halima didn't weep. She didn't ask questions. She just stared blankly at the walls and didn't talk to anyone. "She's in shock," Debbie whispered to Chi. "It happens to some girls." "What did they do with the babies?" Chi asked in a trembling voice. Debbie hesitated. Then she replied, her voice barely audible. "They sell them. Some go to hospitals. Others, we don't know." Chi's heart dropped. Her mind raced. How could people be this evil? How could Clara, a woman praised for empowering women, be doing something so wicked behind the scenes? But there was no one to tell, no one to trust, and no way out. As she stared through the barred windows that night, she whispered to herself, "If I survive this place, the world will hear the truth." While Zion Hill Academy continued its dark operations in silence, the Ocon mansion in Lekki remained the picture of wealth and admiration. Mr. Edward and Mrs. Clara Ocon still attended high-profile events, smiled for the cameras, and spoke about girl-child empowerment at conferences. No one suspected the truth hiding behind their designer clothes and charity smiles. At home, their two daughters, Bella and Brenda, were living a completely different life. The twins, both 19, were popular, spoiled, and known across Lagos for their beauty, fashion, and elite lifestyle. They had everything: phones, cars, designer bags. But what they didn't have was freedom. Their parents controlled their image tightly. No late nights, no boys, no parties. But Bella and Brenda were tired of the fake life, and one Friday night, they decided to sneak out to a secret house party in Ikoyi. Their boyfriends had invited them, and they didn't want to miss it. "We'll be back before sunrise," Bella whispered as they tiptoed out of the mansion. A black car waited outside the gate. Inside were the two boys, charming, smooth-talking guys who had convinced the girls they were just regular Lagos ballers. What the twins didn't know was that those boys were working for Clara Ocon herself. Their job was to scout and lure unsuspecting young girls into the Zion Hill system, and this time they had no idea who the twins really were. At the party, the girls drank, laughed, and danced like never before. But somewhere along the night, something strange happened. Their drinks tasted off. Their heads began to spin. Then everything went dark. The next time Bella opened her eyes, she was no longer in Ikoyi. She was in a cold, unfamiliar room, inside Zion Hill Academy. When Bella opened her eyes, the first thing she noticed was the smell. A sharp mix of disinfectant and something rotten. The second thing was the heavy silence. Then came the cold realization. She wasn't in her bed. She wasn't even in her city anymore. She sat up quickly, only to feel a dull pain in her head. She looked around the room: metal bunks, barred windows, a creaky ceiling fan spinning lazily. The door had no handle on the inside. A second later, Brenda stirred beside her. "Where are we?" Brenda mumbled, rubbing her forehead. "I don't know," Bella whispered, panic rising. This doesn't look like a hospital or a police station." It didn't take long before the truth hit them. A stern woman entered the room, holding two uniforms, tight blue dresses with the name Zion Hill Academy stitched in tiny letters. "Change into these," she said coldly. "You'll start orientation tomorrow." "Orientation for what?" Bella asked, standing up. The woman gave a chilling smirk. "To learn how to serve. This is your new home now." Brenda's eyes widened. "There must be a mistake. We're not supposed to be here. We're Mrs. Clara Ocon's daughters." The woman stopped in her tracks. "What did you say?" "We're her daughters," Bella repeated, louder this time. "Call her. She'll clear this up immediately." But the woman laughed. Not a soft laugh, a dry, twisted one. "You must really think you're clever. Everyone comes in here with a story." She left and slammed the door. For the first time in their lives, Bella and Brenda felt what it meant to be powerless. They cried, they screamed, but no one came. They were now prisoners. Prisoners in the very system their own parents created, and no one even knew they were gone. Days passed, then weeks. Bella and Brenda stopped screaming. No one came. Zion Hill Academy had swallowed them whole, just like the hundreds of girls before them. Their names were erased, their identities stripped. They were given new numbers. The staff acted like they were just another set of recruits. It was as if their last names, their status, their parents, none of it mattered here. The sisters were kept in separate rooms, told they would adjust faster that way. They only saw each other during supervised hours. The first time Brenda saw Bella again after 5 days, Her twin was wearing the same dull uniform, her hair roughly shaved. "Bella," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Bella pulled her into a hug. "We have to stay calm," she said through clenched teeth. "We need to figure out a way out of here." Meanwhile, deep in another wing of the academy, Debbie, Chi, and Ruth were growing restless. Debbie had noticed something strange. 2 new girls had arrived, and the staff was unusually tense around them. She had overheard a nurse whisper something about Madam's daughters. Curiosity burned in her chest. Late one night, while cleaning one of the storage rooms, Debbie heard voices through a vent. "I swear one of them looks like Clara," someone whispered. "You better not say that too loud," another replied. "You know what happened to Halima when she asked questions." Debbie froze, her heart pounded. Could it be true? Could Clara's own daughters be trapped here? That night, she couldn't sleep. Her eyes remained open, staring at the cracked ceiling, a thought spinning wildly in her mind. If Clara's daughters are really here, then maybe, just maybe, this place can fall. And for the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. Debbie couldn't shake the feeling. If Clara's daughters were really inside Zion Hill Academy, then the time to act was now. She'd seen too much, lost too much, and now, the one person responsible for their suffering might just be vulnerable. She whispered her suspicions to Chi and Ruth during kitchen duty. "You're saying her own daughters are here?" Chi asked, stunned. Debbie nodded. 2 new girls, same height, same eyes. The staff is nervous. They're hiding something. Ruth clenched her fists. Good. Let them taste what they built. But Debbie wasn't after revenge. She wanted justice. And freedom. For all of them. "We need a plan," she whispered. "We can't waste this chance." Meanwhile, in a locked room at the far end of the academy, Brenda was struggling to breathe. Her asthma had returned, and her medication, which she needed daily, hadn't been given to her since her arrival. Her breaths became short and sharp. The room spun. She pounded on the door, gasping, "Please, I need my inhaler, please." No one came. By the time Bella found out, Brenda was lying limp on the bed, wheezing softly, her eyes barely open. Bella screamed, banging on the door until her fists bled. "Help her! Somebody, please!" Eventually, 2 staff members rushed in, but it was too late. The academy wasn't equipped for real medical emergencies. By the next morning, Brenda was gone. Bella didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat in silence, her soul hollow, her hands clenched. The staff tried to act like nothing happened, but the girls knew. A storm had started. Something inside Bella snapped. That same evening, she whispered her real name to Debbie. "I'm Bella Oaken, Clara's daughter, and this place killed my twin." Debbie stared at her, stunned. "Then help us burn it down." The next morning at Zion Hill Academy was unusually quiet. The nurses whispered, the guards seemed tense, and the girls, they moved like a current was building beneath their feet, invisible but powerful. Bella hadn't slept. She sat beside the spot where Brenda had died, her eyes dry, her face pale. Her mind was sharp with grief, but her heart was cold. Something inside her had died with her sister, and something else had awakened. That evening, Bella found Debbie, Chi, and Ruth outside the storage shed. She looked each of them in the eye. "I'm done being quiet," she said. "If I stay here any longer, I'll rot. But if we work together, if we move smart, we can bring this place down." Debbie stepped forward. "We've been waiting for someone like you." The plan was risky, but it was their only chance. That night, while the guards changed shifts and the kitchen staff rested, Chi slipped into the admin office using a broken key Debbie had stolen weeks ago. Inside, they found gold, contact numbers, maps, receipts, and a list of names of babies, prices beside each one. Evidence, real, undeniable proof. Meanwhile, Bella snuck into the nurse's room and stole one of the old phones hidden in the drawer. likely used for emergency communication. She didn't call her parents. She didn't even think of the police. She called someone the world would listen to. Her old school principal, Mrs. Adebayo, a woman who had always warned her about her parents' secrecy and who had powerful media connections. "Ma," Bella whispered into the phone, her voice cracking. "It's me, Bella Ocon. They've locked me in my parents' secret school, and my sister is dead." Silence. Then Mrs. Adebayo said, "Tell me everything. The world will hear this." It began with a whisper. By morning, it was a storm. Principal Mrs. Adebayo wasted no time. After hearing Bella's shocking call, she contacted a top journalist from Channels TV, then alerted a trusted police commissioner, who had once worked with child rescue operations. Within hours, a full task force was on standby, armed with a warrant, undercover reporters, and a medical team. Bella's exact directions guided them to the hidden location on the outskirts of Lekki. That afternoon, as the sun dipped into the clouds, vans with tinted windows and sirens off rolled silently toward Zion Hill Academy. No one in the compound suspected a thing. Inside the walls, Debbie, Chi, and the others waited anxiously. Bella had told them, "When you hear the first loud bang, run. Don't look back." Then it happened. Boom! The front gates were ripped open with a battering ram. "Police! Nobody move!" Chaos erupted. Guards scattered like ants. Nurses ran into dormitories screaming. A few tried to destroy files, but she had already hidden the originals under her bed. Debbie held on to the younger girls, shouting, "It's okay, they're here to help." Bella ran straight to the officer in charge. "Check the back wing, that's where they keep the sick girls." Journalists swarmed the compound, cameras rolling, capturing every haunting detail: the barred windows, the torn mattresses, the girls who hadn't seen freedom in years. By evening, over 200 girls had been rescued. Nurses and security staff were handcuffed and dragged into police vans. The files and records found confirmed everything: the trafficking, the fake medical procedures, the child sales. The headline broke before nightfall. Baby Factory discovered in elite Lagos school, daughters of founders among victims. When the news reached the public, it spread like wildfire. But the most shocking part, the names behind it all: Mr. Edward and Mrs. Clara Ocon. By the time Edward and Clara Ocon saw the news, it was too late. Clara was in her office at the Women's Empowerment Center when her secretary rushed in, face pale. "Ma, you need to see this," she said, handing her a tablet. The screen showed live footage from Zion Hill Academy. Police vans, crying girls, and news anchors exposing everything. Clara's legs gave way. She collapsed onto the floor, gasping. Her husband, Edward, was already receiving calls from business partners, board members, and foreign donors. His phone buzzed nonstop. But none of the calls were to help. They were all cutting ties. The final blow came when Clara saw Bella on screen, standing beside the commissioner of police, holding up one of the baby's sale records with tears in her eyes. "My name is Bella Ocon," she said into the camera, her voice breaking. "My parents built this evil system. They pretended to help girls like me, but instead, they destroyed us." That clip went viral within minutes. Edward and Clara tried to run. With fake passports, they rushed to Murtala Muhammad International Airport, hoping to catch a private flight to Ghana. But the immigration officers were already waiting. "Mr. and Mrs. Ocon," one officer said calmly, "you're under arrest for human trafficking, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit fraud." They were handcuffed in front of dozens of reporters. Cameras flashed. People screamed. Some even spat at them. The couple who once walked red carpets and led charity galas were now being dragged through the airport like criminals. At the station, Clara broke down during questioning. She confessed everything: the fake scholarships, the inseminations, the child sales. Edward tried to deny, but with Clara's confession and mountains of evidence, he had nowhere to hide. Their empire collapsed in a single day. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, victims, human rights activists. All eyes were on the trial of Edward and Clara Okon, once Lagos's most celebrated power couple, now the faces of one of Nigeria's darkest scandals. The judge's voice echoed through the hall. You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment with hard labor for your roles in child trafficking, abuse, and conspiracy to defraud the Nigerian people. Gasps filled the room. Clara sobbed loudly. Edward slumped in defeat. The gavel fell. Justice had spoken. Outside, the sun was shining, but it was the girls who shone brighter. Bella, now dressed in a simple white blouse and jeans, stood beside Debbie, Chi, and dozens of other survivors. Each of them had been given a fresh start, with therapy, full scholarships, and new homes. The government worked with NGOs to shut down every fake clinic and center tied to the Okons. Their estates were seized and turned into real rehabilitation centers for vulnerable girls. Zion Hill Academy was demolished, brick by brick. A memorial now stood where the gate once was, with a plaque that read, "In memory of the daughters who never made it out. We see you, we remember you, we fight for you." Bella, standing before the plaque, placed a single white rose. She whispered, "For you, Brenda, for every girl who was silenced." Debbie turned to her and said, "You did what none of us could do. You turned your pain into power." Bella smiled. For the first time in months, it was real. And as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, the girls walked away, not as victims, but as survivors. They had reclaimed their voices. They had reclaimed their lives. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, inspired you, or opened your eyes, subscribe now to our YouTube channel, African Folktales with Auntie, for more powerful, interesting stories like this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share with someone who needs to hear this. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, stay free.